Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavala Bhagiri Varadari. Gopi Janavala Bhagiri Varadari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Shishirada Madhava ki jai, Shishirada Kalachandri ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Together we can recite. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadevi, author. Nasha praeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamashoke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I'm eternally indebted, and I'm so fallen and shy. Today's class is going to be a very fun, interesting, touchy subject. I ask that my senior devotees please bless me and do not hesitate to correct any deviations if I speak anything incorrectly, because I'm also learning about this topic. We are going to be in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 28, starting with text 51. We'll read from 51 to 65, and then we'll focus in on text 54. You guys can go ahead and pass around the mic. Or no. Should I just read them then? My dear king, one Brahmana, who was an old friend of King Puranjana, came to that place and began to pacify the queen with sweet words. So this queen, she just witnessed her husband's death, and thank you. And now she's getting ready to enter into the fire and die along with him, as was custom back in those times. But this dear Brahmana, who's an old friend of the king, is coming. You can go ahead. The second one. 50.
The Brahmana inquired as follows: Who are you? Whose wife or daughter are you? Who is the man lying here? It appears you are lamenting for this dead body. Don't you recognize me? I am your eternal friend. You may remember that many times in the past you have consulted me.
So this Brahmana is revealing himself to actually be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, Super Soul, Krishna himself.
The Brahmana continued, My dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, can't you remember that in the past you had a very intimate friend? Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted a position as enjoyer of this material world.
My dear gentle friend, both of you and I are exactly
Maybe switch mic.
like two swans.
Use the other mic.
The battery's low on this one as well. You and I are exactly like two swans. We live together in the same heart, which is just like the Manasa Lake. Although we have been living together for many thousands of years, we are still far away from our original home.
My dear friend, you are now my very same friend. Since you left me, you have become more and more materialistic, and not seeing me, you have been traveling in different forms throughout this material world, which was created by some woman.
That woman being Maya Devi, Mahamaya, the energy of the Lord himself.
In that city, the material body, there are 5 gardens, 9 gates, 1 protector, 3 apartments, 6 families, 5 stores, 5 material elements, and 1 woman who is the lord of the house.
My dear friend, the 5 gardens are the 5 objects of sense enjoyment, and the protector is the life air, which passes through the 9 gates. The 3 apartments are the chief ingredients: fire, water, and earth. The 6 families are the aggregate total of the mind and 5 senses.
The 5 stores are the 5 working sensory organs. They transact their business through the combined forces of the 5 elements, which are eternal. Behind all this activity is the soul. The soul is a person and an enjoyer in reality. However, because he is now hidden within the city of the body, he is devoid of knowledge.
My dear friend, when you enter such a body along with the woman of material desires, you become overly absorbed in sense enjoyment. Because of this, you have forgotten your spiritual life. Due to your material conceptions, you are placed in various miserable conditions.
Actually, you are not the daughter of Vidarbha, nor is this man, Malayadwaja, your well-wishing husband, nor were you the actual husband of Puranjani. You are simply captivated in this body of the 9.
Sometimes you think yourself a man, sometimes a chaste woman, and sometimes a natural inner. This is all because of the body, which is created by the illustrious energy. The illustrious energy is my potential, and actually both of us, you and I, are pure spiritual identities. Now just try to understand this. I am trying to explain our faculty's position.
My dear friend, I, the super soul, and you, the individual soul, are not different in quality, for we are both spiritual. In fact, my dear friend, you are qualitatively not different from me in your constitutional position. Just try to consider this subject. Those who are actually advanced scholars who are in knowledge do not find any qualitative difference between you and me.
As a person sees the reflection of his body in a mirror to be one with himself and not different, whereas others actually see two bodies, so in our material condition in which the living being is affected and yet not affected, there is a difference between God and the living entity.
In this way, both swans live together in the heart. When the one swan is instructed by the other, he is situated in his constitutional position. This means he regains his original Krishna consciousness, which was lost because of his material attraction.
Last verse.
My dear King Prachinabarhi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus I have described the story of Puranjana to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self-realization. Jai.
Okay, let's go back to text 54. Ham savaham cha tvam charya. Ham savaham cha tvam charya. Sakayo manasayano. Sakayo manasayano. Abhutam antaravoka. Abhutam antaravoka. Sahasra parivastara vatsaran. Sahasra parivatsaran. Ham savaham cha tvam charya. Sakayo manasayano. Adbhutam antaravoka. Sahasra parivatsaran. Please chant. Ham savaham cha tvam charya. Sakayo manasayano. Adbhutam antaravoka. Sahasra parivatsaran. Savaham cha tvam charya. Ham savaham cha tvam charya. Sakayo manasayano. Sakayo manasayano. Bhutam antaravoka. Abhutam antaravoka. Sahasra parivatsaran. Sahasra parivatsaran. All right, so we can go ahead and do the word for word together. Hamso, two swans. Aham, I. Cha, and. Tvam, you. Cha, also. Arya, O great soul. Sakayo, friends. Manasa, ayano, together in the Manasa lake. Abhutam, became. Antara, separated. Va, indeed. Oka, from the original home. Sahasra, thousands. Pari, successfully. Vatsaran, years. Translation. My dear, gentle friend, both you and I are exactly like two swans. We live together in the same heart, which is just like the Manasa lake. Although we have been living together for many thousands of years, we are still far away from our original home. Purport. The original home of the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, both the Lord and the living entities live together very peacefully. Since the living entity remains engaged in the service of the Lord, they both share a blissful life in the spiritual world. However, when the living entity wants to enjoy himself, he falls down into the material world. Even while he is in that position, the Lord remains with him as the supersoul, his intimate friend. Because of his forgetfulness, the living entity does not know that the Supreme Lord is accompanying him as the supersoul. In this way, the living entity remains conditioned in each and every millennium. Although the Lord follows him as a friend, the living entity, because of forgetful material existence, does not recognize him. I also actually would like to touch on the previous verse, just maybe the first paragraph of the purport, because it was very informative as well. I'll read the translation. The Brahmana says, "My dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, can't you remember that in the past you had a very intimate friend? Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted a position as enjoyer of this material world." Srila Prabhupada goes on to quote Bhagavad Gita, "O scion of Bharat, Arjuna, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, overcome by the dualities of desire and hate." This is an explanation of how the living entity falls down into this material world. In the spiritual world, there is no duality, nor is there hate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself into many. In order to enjoy bliss more and more, the Supreme Lord expands himself into different categories. As mentioned in the Varaha Purana, he expands himself in Vishnu Tattva, the Swamsa expansion, and in his marginal potency, the Vabhinamsha, or the living entity, Vibhinamsha. These expanded living entities are innumerable, just as the minute molecules of sunshine are innumerable expansions of the sun. The Vibhinamsha expansions, the marginal potencies of the Lord, are the living entities. When the living entities desire to enjoy themselves, they develop a consciousness of duality and come to hate the service of the Lord. In this way, the living entities fall into the material world. In the Prema Vivarta, it is said, the natural position of the living entity is to serve the Lord in a transcendental, loving attitude. When the living entity wants to become Krishna himself or imitate Krishna, he falls down into the material world. Since Krishna is the Supreme Father, his affection for the living entity is eternal. When the living entity falls down into the material world, the Supreme Lord, through his Swamsa expansion, Paramatma, keeps company with the living entity. In this way, the living entity may someday return home back to Godhead. Prabhupada goes on to explain it's due to our own misuse of our independence that we decided to come here to this material world. So I was listening to a short snippet of a lecture by Hridayananda Goswami Maharaj, and he's explaining this idea of the fall of the jiva. How did the jiva fall? Why would the jiva fall? And where did we fall from? All of these questions are brought up. And he says that there is only one place in all of our vast literatures where this is directly explained, and it's in these verses here that we're reading. Krishna is saying to his devotee, by rejecting me, you decided to come to this world. When I think of this, when I try to conceptualize this inconceivable topic, I'm reminded of the book of Genesis in the Bible with Adam and Eve. This is known as the original sin. So what is the story of Adam and Eve? Adam and Eve had a paradise. They had anything they could ever wanted. They were happy. Everything was taken care of. They survived off the seeds and the fruits of the earth, and they had a relationship with God. But there was something lurking in the shadows. In this case, it was the snake on this tree. So God told them, okay, you can have anything that you want in this entire creation, but just steer clear of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's not necessary for you. So he gave us that little bit of independence that if you want, you can go to that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, but I don't recommend it. But it's there. It's there if you so desire. Because without free will, what is our love? What is our choice to serve Krishna and to have a relationship with Krishna? We're no better than an inanimate object if we're forced to serve and we don't get to choose it. We're no better than a table or a chair or whatever the case may be. So he gave us the choice, and he gave us the facility to experience the repercussions of that choice. So in this story of the book of Genesis, he says, this is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is, Prabhupada explains in one purport, I don't know if we just read it, but this duality, this desire to experience duality, good and evil. And in the Bible, it's explained, or I've understood it to be that this snake presents this knowledge and says, you can know. God doesn't want you to know, because then you'll become as powerful as God. So this is envy. This is our envy of God's superior position. We wanted to be God. We wanted to have the knowledge that God has. And so that seed of desire, we were convinced to take that fruit from that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and look where it got us. It got us here. Now we have knowledge. We understand evil probably very clearly after lifetimes and lifetimes of going deep into the depths of the evils of turning our back away from Krishna. Actually, everything in the material world, in material consciousness, is on the same level. And this is kind of inconceivable, but we can go to the deepest depths of evil, which is to, murder someone. But even just to try to enjoy your senses in any way separately from Krishna, whether that be illicit sex or, things like that, it's all the same. On one level, it's all the same, because it's all turning away from Krishna. So we need to turn back to Krishna. So I had some more notes on this, topic of the fall of the jiva, because this is a pretty big topic. This is something that, is like, oh, we don't ask about that in class. We don't ask about that. We don't talk about it. We don't bring it up. Just because people become so confused by the topic. But Srila Prabhupada makes it very clear, time and time again, through use of the language like fell down or forgotten our position, and words like remember. We need to remember our relationship with Krishna, and we can be reinstated in our constitutional position as his servant. We can reawaken our dormant Krishna consciousness. The Acharyas have left no room for doubt in this regard, but because of the inconceivable nature of transcendental subject matters and our material, mundane desire to understand everything with our mundane minds, we experience doubts. And so there's a few counter arguments that people give to try to say that the jiva didn't fall, or different things like that. These I have 4 written down here, the most common counter arguments. So one counter argument is that at one time in a purport, explaining the pastime of Jai and Vijay and how they came to this material world and took birth as demons, Hiranyakashipu, Jagai and Madai, all of these demons. Srila Prabhupada says in one purport, he says, no one falls from Vaikuntha. So this is the biggest, one of the biggest, when people want to defend this idea that we didn't fall from Vaikuntha, they always go to this one statement by Srila Prabhupada, but actually it's taken a little bit out of context. They're taking it to mean no soul ever chooses to leave Krishna. But actually what Prabhupada is explaining is that no soul is ever forced to leave Krishna. No one ever is cast out of Vaikuntha. If we decide to give up Krishna's service, that's on us. Also, the way that I've understood it, and please correct me if there's any misinterpretation in my understanding, is that once we realize our constitutional position in the spiritual world, once we have that full realization, once we go back home, back to Godhead, it's as though we were never really here. There's not a point in time when we fell. There's no time in the spiritual world. So how can, we ever, fall from the spiritual world? While we're here, we're here. But when we're back there, it's like a dream. So really, we have to make it back. But did we ever really leave Krishna? We're always with him. If there's any correction to that, please let me know. So the second argument or counter argument or evidence that people try to give is that we emanated from the glance of Vishnu, and this is understood in that yes, the soul emanated from the glance of Vishnu once we decided to not have Krishna's association in the spiritual world anymore. At that point, Lord Vishnu, through his I think it says Tyakta Kalam, that glance that is infused with time. Prabhupada Priya was explaining to me it's infused with time and the propensity to enjoy. Through that glance, he sends us down to the material world. These words Tyakta Kalam are in Brahma Samhita 5:7. And so, we're cast to the material world through this medium of Vishnu's glance, but it's not like we emanated from the glance of Vishnu. To say that we emanated from the glance of Vishnu is to say that we have a beginning. And as we know from Bhagavad Gita, there is never a time where we did not exist, nor a time where we shall ever cease to be. And being a servant of Krishna is our constitutional and eternal position. Nitya, Siddha, what is it? Krishna Prema? No, that's a different one. Jivara Swarupoi Krishna, Nitya Das. We are an eternal servant of Krishna. I guess the third argument would be that we came from Tatashta. We are Tatashta Shakti, so we came from the Tatashta region. Tatashta means marginal. It means that as a jiva soul, we have that free will. We have that independence to choose. Do I want to be in spiritual consciousness, in spiritual energy, or do I want to be enveloped in Maya, in the material energy? But this Tatashta, to say that it's a region, that's never been stated by Krishna before. He explains the spiritual world and he explains the material world, but he does not explain a place called Tatashta or a Tatashta planet. There's not a location that we came from. So this is just our nature as the soul with the gift of free will that Krishna has given us. And then the last one is that, this one's silly, that we're here, it's part of Krishna's pastime that I'm here in this material world. This can be a little bit, this is often said by the Mayavadis, oh, I'm here to enjoy duality. I'm actually Krishna himself. There's also been, I've heard an argument that Krishna saving the souls from the material world is one of his pastimes, and so he has to put souls here so that he can save them. But Krishna, we understand Krishna is so merciful. He's not a malicious God. He is completely benevolent, and he would never cause us to suffer just for his own enjoyment, not like this. Although we do understand that it is a pastime for him to save us from the material world, but that's because we need saving. So these are some of the arguments, and I'm sure there's so many more that I'm not touching on. Ultimately, we can understand this way that, let's see, I have so many notes here. There's so many things to talk about. Okay, I'll skip ahead a little bit. So in the 5th verse of Shikshastakam, the Lord himself, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he expresses that actually to know these things and to really dive into this topic is not so necessary. He expresses this by saying, Srila Prabhupada's translation is that somehow or other, I've fallen into this ocean of birth and death. So yes, we did fall. Yes, we did fall, that's stated. But he doesn't get into the details of it. It's not like, he just says somehow or other. And this is also confirmed by Srila Prabhupada when Srila Prabhupada says that when a house is burning, you don't worry about how the fire started. You don't go and you search and you try to figure out where the fire started. You get out of the house. And eventually you'll know how the fire started, and it, by then it's like you're already out of the house, you're already saved. So this is our focus, is how to get out. We're here. Somehow or other we've fallen, we're here. So now we have to get out. That's the main conclusion. A few other points are that our English language is so, not just English, human language, even Sanskrit, is so limited, and our ability, our capacity to understand these topics are so limited that we cannot possibly understand these transcendental subjects. Because even if we try, even if a realized soul, someone who has realized this 100%, tries to explain it to us, it has to pass through the barrier of mundane language, already one barrier, and then it has to pass into our mind, which is contaminated with so many various misconceptions and misinterpretations. We can never fully understand. And through argument and logic, it's just, we waste so much time in this way trying to. That's not to say that we shouldn't inquire. If we have some doubts, we should ask. But at a certain point, as with all transcendental subject matters, there comes a certain point where it no longer can be explained to us. We won't understand it, and we have to have spiritual realization. Even if we are told these things very explicitly, it's not that we will realize it right away. Actually, we have to be told the same thing a billion times. Just the statement, "You're not your body." How many times have I heard that? And how many times do I need to hear it again before I realize it? Just this one small bit of transcendental wisdom. In Jaiva Dharma, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that we should not even inquire about these things too deeply, because we'll never understand it. Instead, we should just chant Hare Krishna, chant Hare Nam, and realize it internally. We shouldn't waste our time trying to understand these things. This is another form of sense gratification, is trying to understand and be the knower of every little detail. And it's just not possible. I was reading Chaitanya Charitamrita yesterday, and it wasn't talking about this topic, but it had one verse in it. This verse is 17, Adi Lila, chapter 17, verse 308. And it's quoted from Mahabharata, and it's also quoted in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami, and it says, "Anything transcendental to material nature is called inconceivable, whereas arguments are all mundane. Since mundane arguments cannot touch transcendental subject matters, one should not try to understand transcendental subjects through mundane arguments." Transcendental subjects, we can inquire about them, we can hear, we can receive the mercy of the Vaishnavas, and through that mercy, we can begin to have realization. But just by being told something won't mean that we understand it right away. We can cultivate that understanding through chanting attentive japa. And then I also wanted to speak on, just to send this aspect of things, home. Yeah, these words, again, I come back to these words, that we need to remember our constitutional positions. We can be reinstated in our eternal service to Krishna. I think most devotees that have had some profound experiences during japa or during kirtan can attest to that. These moments of realization truly, truly, truly feel like remembrance. They feel like a remembrance of an eternal time that is not limited by what we experience in the day-to-day. It's a time that, it's like you're remembering something that you never thought about before. So that experience is something that I can say to you right now with words, but in order to actually have that experience and to know what I mean, you're gonna have to chant japa. Attentive, sincere, heartfelt japa. Call out to the Lord through His holy name, and then you'll have some glimpse of what it means to remember, and all doubts regarding this fall of the jiva will be erased. Yeah, these are my thoughts, and I'll open for any comments or questions or corrections. Very eager to hear from the Vaishnavas. Mm-hmm.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Premamrita. Very good explanation. Yeah, I was thinking about how some people who try to take the other side on this issue and say that we never fell down, they kind of just dismiss all of Srila Prabhupada's unequivocal statements on the topic by saying that that's Srila Prabhupada's interpretation, and there are other interpretations by previous acharyas. It's just a question of, you're going to accept Prabhupada, you're going to accept, somebody else. But ultimately, we have to accept the Praman, we have to accept the Shastra. And Lord Chaitanya said, and Jiva Goswami also said, that Srimad Bhagavatam is the Parama Pramana. It's the supreme Praman, it's the Amala Purana, the spotless, perfect Praman. And so someone may say, oh, well, that's some errors in the translation or something like that. But we can see the words here, right, in the Sanskrit is very straightforward. You know that in text 55, he's saying, Satvam vihaya mam, bando gato. So tvam means you, and vihaya means leaving. Mam means me. So it basically means you left me. And then, just in case you had any doubts about that, the next thing it says, bando gata. Gata means you went. Like gato means to go. Like literally it just means to go. Like when it says Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, the same word is there. It means to leave, to go. So it's like, so it says it twice. You left me and you went. You went away. Leaving me, you went away. It's like almost redundant in its like emphaticness. And then also I noticed here in text 64, he uses that same language talking about remembrance, reviving. And he said in the last line of the Sanskrit there of text 64, he says, nashtam, it means lost or destroyed, right? When Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, kalo nashta dushamish, or in Bhagavad, or he says, yoga nashtam parantapa, it means it's lost or destroyed. So you don't lose something that you never had. You don't destroy something that didn't exist. It means you already had it, and then you lost it. It was there, and it was destroyed. So nashtam, he's talking about our consciousness. Our original consciousness was lost. And then he goes on to say that apa puna. So puna means again, right? Means again, and like puna means again, right? Punar mushtika bhava, again become a mouse. So he's saying that apa means gain. We need to gain it again. We need to get it back. We need to get that consciousness back again. And then he uses the word smritim, which means remembrance. We need to remember it. So we're not talking about, errors in translation or interpretation. This is directly the verse of the Bhagavatam in Sanskrit that's using these words very emphatically. Puna means again. Remember means to remember it, to remember it again. So something that we lost means we previously had it and we lost it. So it's just very clear,
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of these devotees who try to say that we never were in the spiritual world, we didn't make the mistake of turning our backs on Krishna and coming down here. It's almost like a way of trying to escape responsibility. Like I didn't do anything wrong. Krishna just put me here, and I'm gonna get back, and I can create my own reality, and or this idea that insecurity that so first of all, it's not my fault. Krishna just put me here. We don't want to admit that we made a mistake. We were stupid. We were foolish. We were ignorant. And we were whatever. So that's one part of it. Another part of it is like an insecurity that, what if I don't like my original constitutional position? What if I'm, a peacock? I don't want to be a manjari. So I want to have full scope to be able to create my eternal identity. So there's that too, you know, and so there's some devotees.
Which would never happen. We're not going to not like our constitutional position.
Right? Yeah, so it's just like, just chill, you know, just like be confident that we are who we are, and that's who we are, and that's who we're happy being, and don't try to, you know, I mean, even in this world, when we see somebody that we admire and we try to be them, you know, it doesn't work. We just get frustrated and we're not happy. So we don't want to end up eternally frustrated trying to be someone we're not. Just chant Hare Krishna and everything will be revealed, and when it is, we'll be very happy with who we are.
Right.
And Krishna will also be very happy.
I think one disturbance that causes people to question is this this question of like, why would I ever turn away from Krishna? He's Krishna. If I was enjoying in the eternal abode with Krishna, like, what the heck? Why would I leave him? And I think that that's part of the inconceivable aspect that, you know, Mahaprabhu is saying somehow or other, for some reason or other, you know, we decided to. But if you have any other thoughts, or any of the other senior devotees in the temple right now, regarding this specific doubt, that could be helpful. Otherwise, I understand that, you know, why is...
It's not that inconceivable. Just, I mean, that's how we are. You know, like whatever situation we're in, we always think the grass is greener on the other side. It's just like a human nature thing. We always want something else. So, yeah, we're in the spiritual world and we're, oh, what's that? You know, we get curious. Let me explore that.
Like the tree.
Let's see what's on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Yes.
We really are independent. We have free will because we can choose at any time. It's not like Krishna's so unbelievable that it's impossible that we could ever want anything else, right? Obviously, in the spiritual world, there's so much variegatedness that it has to be that if, like you were referring to in your class, if there is love and it's not genuinely given, then it's not real. So it must be the case that sometimes we develop. Like, I've heard of this material world. Maybe I can try that out.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, I've heard that too, that it could just have been curiosity that made us want to come here.
But I love your class. It was really excellent. And I can see that you spent a lot of time preparing it and researching it. And I really like the example you made to Adam and Eve, and that maybe each one of us were Adam and Eve, made that decision. You know, we wanted to enjoy duality. We just had nothing but bliss, but hey, let me check out this duality. And Krishna knows that, and so he knows he's not going to lose us forever, right? We go in the spiritual material world, we suffer like anything, and then finally, please, I want to come back, right? So there must be something to that. I've never heard it explained ontologically, or like what is the ultimate purpose behind the material world. You know, but I guess that's revealed as maybe once we go back, we can understand. There's also the process. I like what you said. So many things, such great examples, and I think it's we always have that choice. You know, it's got to be the choice, and we have to make the choice now too, every day. You know. Do we want material? Do we want spiritual time? And so it's reflective of that. And that free will is so important, because then when you use your free will and you actually say, I want Krishna, that's like really amazing. And then it's our real nature is spiritual, right? Because we're spirit soul. So it's just covered. It's just a matter of removing the covering. And as you remove the covering more and more, like you clean the mirror, you start to see it. And then once you see it, oh, that's what it's really about. So you can be in Vaikuntha and even be in the spiritual world, in the material world, right? Prabhupada was never really out of the spiritual world. So I like what you're saying about, you know, it's hard to understand. And it's sort of like a Chinta Beta Beta Tattva, right? Simultaneously one and separate. We can't really understand that, but Krishna's done that.
Right.
So same with this issue. And I think you probably have it in your one of your examples you're going to give, but there's the crow and tall fruit logic. Have you heard that?
No, actually.
This is one of the things Prabhupada said. He said, there's a tree, and on the tree, it's a tall tree, and there's a crow jumping around on the branches, and he hits a branch, and the tall fruit drops. So the two pundits are on the ground. They said that fruit fell because the crow was jumping was jumping near near that branch. And the other pundit says, no, that fruit was heavy, and it was ripe, and it was ready to fall. And so they said, which one was it? So they argue all day. You can't. It doesn't matter. The fruit fell.
Eat it.
That's it. And so I like your example better of the burning house, because that shows the danger that we're in the material world. Let's get the heck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
It's even more dangerous than a burning house because you think you can enjoy the burning house.
Mm-hmm. Shy.
I guess my thought isn't like all the way formulated yet, but in Srila Prabhupada's purport, he said that like the soul comes to hate the devotional service of the Lord. Like, wow, that's such a strong word to use. Like, often we say in schools and stuff nowadays, oh, hate is a strong word. But I was like, wow, hating the devotional service of the Lord, that's pretty bad. Like, how could you ever hate Krishna? How could you ever hate, serving Krishna? And I guess I had always had this conception that, we were just like a little curious. We had the split second thought, what if I was Krishna? But to like come to hate the devotional service, I was like, dang, that's pretty heavy. But I guess it's the truth that right now, everyone out there, they hate the concept of them not being the center. They hate the concept of, I don't know. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, yeah, you said it. Yeah, probably Priya maybe.
I always found it interesting that word hate in Sanskrit is dvesha, and it's from the same, dva means two. Dvandva means duality, and dvesha means hate. So the only way we can hate someone is to think that there's me and you. I hate you, right? But if we understand the oneness, that actually I'm a part and parcel of you, Krishna, like qualitatively, like I, in a sense, I'm nothing but you. I'm eternally, individually, separate from you as your eternal servant, but at the same time, I'm just you, So, when we forget that, when we forget our inherent oneness with Krishna, and we start to see that we're two total, then we become competitors, right? And because Krishna's always going to win, we hate that. If you're competing with someone and that person always beats you, it's like, I just hate that guy. He always has to be better than. So that's where it starts. It's like, well, why would I serve my competitor? I need to worry about myself and increase my, stuff so that I can maybe hoping against hope that we're going to actually be God. So the dvesha, hate or envy, it comes from that the sense of two. Yeah. As soon as we see that there's something that's not Krishna in any of existence, then we develop this separatist mentality, and that's what gets us in trouble. Then we turn away.
I think I can bring it down like to our level, or at least my level in this material world. I'm seeing, like how we were talking about, people don't want to go back to Godhead, and then they don't like their swarup or something. They get afraid of that. But in this material world, kind of what you're saying, what you're saying is like we need to. There's always going to be someone better than us. There's always going to be someone more, talented than us or stronger than us. And if we don't accept ourselves and fully, embrace who we are and use who we are to love and to serve, then we're always going to be envious. And so it comes from, us wanting to be Krishna. We can never be Krishna, so we hate Krishna. But if we just were able to love myself, love my service, love my offering to Krishna, then I don't have to be Krishna. I can be with Krishna. Yeah. And this is true in the mundane world, like with my friends. I have so many friends that are better than me in so many ways, and if I wanted to be them, I wouldn't be able to call them friends. But I love them for who they are, and I appreciate myself for who I am, and I appreciate the relationship that's formed when I'm myself and they are their selves. And we can actually have a lovely friendship. We appreciate each other mutually.
It's totally counterproductive for our own self-interest to hate Krishna
Mm.
because we're parts and parcels of Krishna. So literally the only way we can be happy is when Krishna's happy, when Krishna's happy with us. That's the whole, watering the root of the tree analogy, that trying to water the leaf, the plant's going to die. You have to put the water on the root and then all the leaves. So we're like the leaves and Krishna's like the root. And when we serve Krishna, put the water on the root, then we're happy. That's the science of happiness, basically.
Thank you very much. Nice discussion. I dived into that at one point. One thing I don't know if we discussed yet is this concept of Nitya Siddha versus Nitya Bandha. That's like a big. Did you talk about it? Okay.
You can elaborate, and then I can share any thoughts.
Yeah, that was confusing to me at one point too, because it'll say like you have two kinds of Jiva souls. You have the Nitya Siddha that are eternally liberated, and you have Nitya Bandha that are eternally conditioned. So I was like, okay, I guess if I'm in the Nitya Bandha, then okay, I'm stuck here, or if I'm, But then with my research and hearing from senior devotees, I realized that okay, like eternally is not exactly the way we understand it. It means like from time immemorial, like a really long time.
Yeah. Ishti Goswami, he explains that whenever the word nitya or words like that are used in regard to anything in the material world, it's like that. It's like time immemorial. We can't trace it back. Whenever it's used, because that's the nature of this material world anyways, is that it is temporary. Everything in it is temporary, so there can be nothing actually nitya, actually like eternally, present in material energy. Whereas whenever it's used in spiritual energy, that's the only way that it can actually mean the right thing. And that's just one example of how our language in general cannot encapsulate these things. We can only do our best. Do you have any thoughts on that, Prabhupada Priya?
Yeah, I've heard Hridanand Raj uses this example that we use the word, like nitya means forever, right? So we use that also in the way we normally speak. Like, it's time for Mangalarti and you're in the ashram and waiting for someone to get out of the shower and you're like, hey, you've been in there forever. Right? So it hasn't literally been in there forever, but we speak like that. So in Sanskrit, they also speak like that. We've been in this material world forever, but we haven't literally been here forever, but we've been here for a very long time.
Yeah. Probably last point, unless
Hare Krishna. I don't really have anything to add except just appreciating that you did this topic very nicely and in such a short period of time. That's very challenging. I personally have never been drawn to this topic because I feel like I have bigger problems. That's how. But some people were very like His Holiness Hridayananda Das Goswami Maharaj. Has such a high intellect that this is very stimulating and deepens his faith. So for people like that, I just want to share that his class is on our YouTube channel. He was here in October of 2023, and his entire Bhagavatam class, it's probably an hour, was on this topic. He didn't mean for it to be, but it veered that way, and it was electrifying, the way he answered questions. And I just remember him sitting on the Vyasa-san going, why did Prabhupada call his magazine Back to Godhead? We came from there. So it's a great listen.
Beautiful. All right. I think that's it then. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Back to Godhead ki jai. Yay!
Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakanitam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanshan Sri Rupam Chakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Svam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanitanstam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,